Hi guys, we're going to talk about volume of cylinders today. And I'm going to have you do the homework on paper and not the Ingenuity homework this time because there's a couple extra problems I'm combining this time. So let's see what we got going on here. Okay, we're going to look at cylinders and we're going to remember what they are, kind of like a soup can, and we're going to identify the parts. We're going to come up with a formula for these and we're going to actually calculate the volume. So these are the words we're going to need to know. Substitute, you guys know what that means, right? It means just plug in. Cylinder is the shape we're dealing with. It has two circles and then a rectangle that goes around. Diameter, that's halfway across the circle. If you remember, I'll draw it out real quick for you. The diameter goes here. The radius, that's just part way. And the volume is the amount of stuff inside of it. So we'll go over all this as we go on. But which statement describes the volume of the watering can? So we're looking at this watering can. What is the volume? Is it the height? No. Is it the surface of it? No. Is it just the bottom space? That's not right either. It's the amount of stuff that's inside. Volume is the stuff that's inside, like the water that would be in the watering can. So we're going to talk about the parts of a cylinder here. And basically what we have here, we have circular bases. So the whole circle is a base. And you can't quite see the 3D on this one, but we got one down here as well. There's a base. And if you've ever taken the label off of a soup can, you know that what goes around that is a rectangle. So if I was going to draw a net, which we're not going to be drawing nets really, but I want you to kind of see what's happening here. It would look like this, two circles and a rectangle in between. What else do we have? We have a radius. That is a radius. A diameter. She's not here. Goes all the way across. And then the height of the cylinder, you have to be really careful here. The height is what connects the bases. So you might want to write that down. It connects the bases because sometimes the cylinder might be laying on its side. And we know that the bases are the circles. And that's what this next slide is going to show you. If the can is on its side, that does not make it a base. The base is always the circle. So the circles are the base. It does not mean just the bottom. All right, so look, we got two figures here. Which one shows the base and height labeled correctly? Well, the height looks good here and the height looks good here, but is the base the rectangle round part? No. B is the right one. The circle is the base and the height connects the two circles. So what is the formula for volume? Well, we talked about with prisms a lot. That was the area of the base times the height, the big B times H. And that's exactly what it is for a cylinder. But this time the area of the base is going to be the area of a circle. So we kind of have a formula that works for every single cylinder. You don't even need to figure out different bases. And the formula is going to be area of the circle. If you remember, Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Area is pi r squared. So it's going to be pi r squared times the h. Pi r squared is the big B, and then the h is the height. So we're always going to need radius, and you're going to definitely want to write this in your notes. Okay, so what is the most important part? That's the radius. If they don't give you the radius, you're going to have to find it first because they'll give you a diameter, so you'll have to cut it in half. Okay, and then we're going to use that formula. We're not even going to call it big B times H. We're going to call it pi r squared H because then you won't even have to think. You can go right into using that formula. So let's do some practice. We're going to substitute things. That was another word we talked about. Substitute means plugging in. And we're not going to use big B times H. We're going to use pi r squared H. So let's see what they give us. They want us to find the volume, and they tell me what big B is. They're telling me that the area of the circle, that pi r squared, is 9 pi. The height is 7. So we can just take 9 pi times 7. Now it's going to depend if we want an exact or if we want an approximate. Remember, approximate means use your calculator. If they want an exact, we're going to take the 9 times the 7, which is 63. We're going to keep the pi, and we're talking about volume, so that's inches cubed. If they want approximate, you'll take the 63 times either the pi button in your calculator or 3.14. You'll just type that right on in there, and you'll get 197.82. 2 inches cubed. So it depends what they're asking for. If they say exact, we're going to have a pi in our answer. If not, we're going to type it in our calculator. Let's try this one. This time they're telling me that big B is 12 pi. That's that pi r squared. So if it's big B times h, or if it's pi r squared times h, this part is the 12 pi. The height is 9. So again, if you have an exact, you'll leave the pi. And if you have an approximate, we'll type it in our calculator. So 12 times 9, that's 108 pi inches cubed for volume. Or you can take 108 times 3.14 in your calculator and get 339.12 inches cubed. Not too bad. Let's try this one. What if they don't give you a picture? Well, that's not a problem because we know our formula. Our formula is pi r squared h. So if they're talking about a cylinder, the radius is 5 and the height is 3, we can plug it right in. The radius is 5, so that's pi times 5 squared. Remember, 5 squared just means 5 times the height, which is 3. And again, you could do exact or you could do approximate, depending on what you're looking for. If it's exact, we won't type the pi in. We'll just type the 5 times 3, and that will give you 75 pi feet cubed. And if they want the approximate, we'll take 75 times 3.14, and you'll get 235.5 feet cubed. Both are good. Doesn't matter. We're just doing what they ask us to do. Okay, here's another one very similar. This one was optional, but we'll go ahead and do it. Pi r squared h, no picture. Okay, the radius is 2, the height is 10. So that will be pi times 2 squared times 10. So if it was exact, we would take the 10 times 2 squared, which will be 40 pi. And this is going to be meters cubed. And if it was approximate, we'll take the 40 times the 3.14. That was really sloppy that I just wrote. 125.6 meters cubed. That's the approximate. Okay, next, we're going to look at this one. Which one of these cylinders has 45 pi centimeters cubed? Okay, so sorry, my husband's talking to my kid. Okay, so which one of these has 45 pi as your answer? Well, remember, it's pi r squared h. So really, we can kind of just hold on to the pi because they're all going to have pi's in it, but you can look at it if you want. The radius here is 2 squared times 4. Does that give me 45? No, that gives me 16. So it's not this one. How about this? Pi r squared h. Pi, the radius is 5. Is it 5 squared times 9? That'd be 25 times 9. 25 times 9, that's too big. That's not 45 pi, not this one. How about this one? Pi r squared h, pi times 3 squared times 5. 9 times 5 is 45. This is the one that has 45 pi centimeters cubed. So you just kind of have to try them all out and see what you get. Okay, what happens if they give you a diameter and not a radius? It's not going to be a problem for us because we know what the formula is. It's pi r squared h. We just need the radius. Well, we can get the radius because remember what we know, the radius is half of the diameter. So the radius is just 8. And we'll use the 6 for the height. We'll just plug it right in. Pi times 8 squared times 6. And then again, if you want exact, 8 squared times 6 will be 384 pi inches cubed. And if you need an approximate, you'll just take 384 times 3.14 and you'll get 1205.76 inches cubed. So they give you the diameter. It's not a big deal. You just need to find the radius first because that's what we need for the formula. We'll go ahead and try this one. Okay, pi r squared h. And we got to be aware that they did not give me the r. So we're going to find the r. Well, what would the radius be? It would be half of 22, which is 11. So it's pi times 11 squared times h, which is 8. You can type it in your calculator to get an exact 968 pi inches cubed, or you can type it in your calculator and get 3,039.52 inches cubed for the approximate. Okay, how about these? This time they give us all different things, and we're going to have to find all the volumes. So let's see what we got here. If the area of the base is 10 pi, then we can do the big B times h. Area of the base is 10 pi, and the height is 2. So that is going to be 20 pi feet cubed. What if they told me the diameter? I don't need the diameter. I need the radius. So I will find the radius first by taking half of that diameter, which is 3, and that will be pi r squared h, which is pi, times 3 squared, times h, which is 2.5. And I can give an exact by taking 3 times 3, which is 9, times 2.5, which is 22.5 pi feet cubed, or you could type it into your calculator and get an approximate. And then this last one, we're going to do the pi r squared h. They give you the radius, so it's pi times 2 squared times 4.5. So that will be 4 times 4.5. Now, if you're good at your calculator, you could also change that one to a fraction earlier. I should have told you that, but I didn't. And that's going to be 18 pi feet cubed. Those are all the exacts. You can do approximate if you want. Okay, just a couple more things. What if they don't tell you the radius and they want you to find something else? They're going to tell you the volume and they're going to say, hey, can you find this missing piece? We can do that. We're just going to have to work with our formula. So we're going to work with our formula to find what we need. So here's an example. They want the area of the base this time. And they're going to tell me the volume is this and the height is this. So we're going to substitute in what we know. We know the volume is 240 pi. We don't know what the area of the base is. That's what they're asking me for big B times the height, which is 12. We can find what big B is by getting it by itself. How do we undo multiplying? Well, you all remember that's dividing by 12. So if we divide both sides by 12, some of you might get confused because you're like, wait, what do I do with this pi? We're just going to hold on to it. We'll just leave the pi in our answer, and all you'll have to do is take 240 divided by 12, and you'll get 20 pi for the area of the base. Because you can have a pi in the area of the base, and we're going to call it centimeters squared instead of centimeters cubed, because area is counting the squares inside of an object, and volume is counting how many cubes are in there. So if you don't like that 20 pi, could you have done something different? Sure. You could have taken 240 times 3.14 in your calculator and then divide it by 12. There's nothing wrong with that. Our answer that way would be 62.8, and we're talking about centimeters squared. And I bet some of you would realize that would be the same thing as if I just took 20 times 3.14 that I did the other way. Okay, so you have some options here, and sometimes you guys get a little nervous when there's options because you just want the one way to do it. So if you have any questions, just make sure you ask one of us, and we'll make sure that you understand it a little bit better. Okay, they want to know which one of these figures has the area of the base equal to 50 pi, because they're telling us the whole thing. Well, what did we just do there? Well, we took the volume, which was big B times h, and we just divided it by h to get what big B is. So we're going to take the volume and divide it by h and see which one gives me 50 pi. So let's try that. What's 250 pi divided by 50? Well, what's 250 divided by 50? That's just 5. That's just 5 pi. That's not big enough, so it's not this one. Let's try this next guy. 250 pi divided by the height of 25. What would that give me? That'll give me 10 pi, and that's not enough either, so it's not this guy. Better be this last guy. Let's see what happens. 250 pi divided by 5, If you take 250 divided by 5, do we get the 50 we needed? We sure do. There's 50 pi centimeters. Oh, not centimeters, Mrs. Bruto. Meters squared. So it was that third one. On this last one, this time we're looking for a height, and they're telling me that the radius is 6. So they're telling me the radius. So I'm going to use the pi r squared h formula, and we're going to plug in what we know or substitute what we know. The volume is 162 pi, so I'm going to put that in the volume spot. I still have a pi, but I know the radius is 6, so it'll be 6 squared times h. I'm going to clean this up a little bit, and I get 162 pi. I know that 6 times 6 is 36, so it'll be 36 pi times h. I can get h by itself by dividing both sides by 36 pi. Now on this one, when I divide both sides by pi, those pi's will simplify away. And I'll just take 162 divided by 36, and I'll get what my height is. Remember, my height is just a linear measurement. That's 4.5, and we're talking about inches in this problem. Okay, so as we get on, it gets a little bit more complicated. We will have practice. Right now, we're going to do some practice homework problems, and hopefully you'll understand these trickier ones a little bit better. But make sure, if you have any problems at all, you ask Miss Guckle or myself or Miss Kazier or Miss Runtz.